Welcome to another episode of Wildlife Girl Stories. I'm really happy to have you here, and I want to share another journaling session with you today. So, let's look at this nice page that I have already prepared for us. You can't tell on video because it's very faint and only my pencil marks, but I've set up everything already so that we can get started right away. And while my past self goes through and draws all the nice elements onto the page, I will explain to you how my normal monthly tracking works. For me, it's quite important to not have a digital tracker that is the main source of truth for my reading, because I do work in IT and I work with computers a lot. So I really enjoy having these nice hand-drawn pages so that I don't have to track everything digitally, but I can still have all the information that I want to have and just pick up my journal in the evening and mark down if I read on that day, what I read on that day, and also how I like my books. Of course, when I hand letter all of this, it does take me quite a bit of time to set up the whole spread. But as you can see in this slightly sped up version, I make up my spread of 3 parts. The first of which that I'm setting up here is the daily read, which is a little calendar where I can just track how many days of the month I actually read in, and we'll come back to that in just a second after I set up all the nice letters. And then my second section is one for library books, because I like the library and I use it quite a lot. And that will be a little table that we will also get back to in just a bit. And finally, the biggest part of the page is reserved for my actual reading tracker, which is the table that I put in all the data about the books that I read so that I can do any stats that I want to do from it in the end. So for the first section, for my daily read, I always set up a nice little calendar space, which is something that I've seen quite a lot of other booktubers or journalers do in their reading journals as well. And I really like the idea because it's a nice way to show the data more graphically and just have a fun, colorful part of the page every month. So while I set up this little calendar, the idea behind it for me is not to actually keep track of how many pages I read each day, but rather to have one more reason to actually make time every day and read at least a little bit and just keep on with the books that I'm reading. And also, while I haven't done anything with the data that I've collected in the last half year that I've been doing this, I still like the idea of being able to look at how long it took me to read different books. Of course, if I read a cozy little mystery, that might be a lot easier to read and quicker to read than something else like a more difficult classical novel, or maybe something that I want to annotate, and thus that takes me more time to read. So just to have this in a graphical format, I have set up this nice little calendar. And I don't know, maybe this year I will actually take the time to do a bit more detailed evaluations on the data that I can get from it, and we'll see what that tells me about the different types of books that I read. For the second section, my little library tracker, I am setting up a small little table, which is important for me because I do read quite a bit of books from the library, as I just don't have the space to buy as many books as I want to read. And also, if I don't really know whether I like a book or a certain author that I haven't read from before, I don't really want to buy everything. And sometimes I decide later that I actually want to buy a book that I read from the library just because I liked it so much. Anyways, in terms of library tracker, I do take down the book title just to know which one is on hold for me. And for me, this is important because my library only allows me to have 5 books on hold at the same time. And a lot of the books that I do want to read because I've heard about them or because they're later parts of a series that I've been reading, because a lot of them take quite a long time to get ready, as the library doesn't have that many copies usually. It does make sense for me to just keep on top of when these holds will come in so that I will actually be ready and have time to read them in my own time and space. In the end, while the library does tell you this title will take about 16 weeks or something to come in, that might not actually be the case, because sometimes people skip their holds, or sometimes the library will get more or less copies of a book. So I've had it quite a few times that the weekly numbers were really, really wrong and changed over time. This is why I update this tracker twice a month, and always on the 1st and on the 15th, just to make sure that I still have an idea of when my holds will come in. And most of the times when my hold gets ready for me, I actually have time to read it right then, which is something that I do enjoy quite a lot. And the final and biggest part of the page is my actual reading tracker, which I do put down in this table format, which allows me to note all the important information that I might need for my later statistical analysis, if I do feel inclined to do one. This includes, of course, the book title and the book author, which are in the front, and then also the pages or hours, depending on whether I actually read it with my eyeballs or whether I listen to the audiobook, as well as the genre of the book and where I got it from and which type of book I'm reading. So if it's actually a physical book, ebook, or audio. And finally, I have those 3 little columns at the end, which are my tracker for letting me know if I started, continued, or finished a book in this month, which means if I start a new book now in January, then I will put a little tick in the started column. If I continue a book that I've started already last month, then that will go into the continue column. And once I finish it, I will get a tick in the final column. That final one is the one that I use to basically tell how many books I read each month. And with that, we have done all the actual setup for my tracker. So now we can make sure that this page looks a bit nicer and just is even more fun to look at. As you can probably tell from my color scheme, I do want to go for a bit more natural look this month. And I have this nice scrapbooking paper that I've already prepared for this page that has these leaves and ripped up pages lying all over this paper type. And normally I would use washi tapes to do most of the styling of my journals. But in this case, I just had this scrap paper lying around for quite a while, and I thought this would be just the right thing to start off the new year and give it the right vibes of nice, chill nature, which I do love. Anyways, as I set up all these pages and struggle a little bit with gluing them where they're supposed to go, because as it turns out, that's not that easy, even though I did already rip up all the parts that I want to have on the page and have a little setup basically prepared right next to my journal, it does take a while to set up. And if you want to do this kind of journaling, you do have to decide if you want to take the time to make it this nice, or if you rather have something that is a bit more functional but not quite as beautiful. For myself, I do like to set it up this nicely just because I really enjoy the setup, and doing something creative is something that I've been missing in the last few years since I've been working full time, because there's not that much time left to have nice little creative hobbies, to be honest. Anyways, I tend to just put on some nice music or maybe listen to an audiobook while I do the decorating, because I don't have to think about it that much. And it just is a nice thing to do in the evening to relax and just chill down from having to work all day. So, well, while I finish setting up this nice little spread, I do hope that you enjoyed watching me and listening to my setup of the trackers, and I hope that maybe some of it is useful for you as well, or that you got some ideas of what you might be able to try in your own reading journal if you have one. If you don't, that's fine as well. If you enjoy watching me set up mine, then please do come back at some point. I will be back at the end of the month for sure and tell you something about all the books that I read in January, which will probably not be that many because there's just always too much to do, especially since I do actively participate in counting our local bats, which is a conservation effort where we try to have better knowledge of their numbers and know how many of them are staying in our caves and surviving the winter down here. So while that is going on, I do not have as much time to read and as much time to do other stuff, because I'm basically gone one day on the weekends and just trying to find bats in the cold, which is quite exhausting, to be honest. But I'm rambling. So I'm happy that you were here with me and watched me set up this nice little page. I hope you enjoyed it as well. So yeah, if you're still here, then you can get a very tiny sneak peek at what this kind of tracker will look like once it's filled out. This is from November of last year. And in January, I will show you the new one, of course. So please do come back for the end of January, check in with all the books that I read this month. I can already tell you that at least one of them will be a 5-star because it's going really, really good so far. So I hope to see you then. Have a nice day and thank you for watching.